Today we will tell you about the life of a politician and a rebel leader who was also known for serving as President of Liberia from 1997 to 2003. Yes, we're talking about Charles Taylor. From widely being blamed for the country's horrific civil war in the 1990s to crimes perpetrated during the neighboring Sierra Leone Civil War, Charles Taylor was involved in every major crime in one way or the other. Watch the video till the end as we tell you about the life of one of the biggest all-American warlords. Early life. Charles Gankay Taylor was born in Arthington, Montserrado County, Liberia, on January 27, 1948. Nelson, his father, worked as a teacher, lawyer, and judge. He was an Americo-Liberian, who were a group of descendants from Liberia's first 19th century settlers, and Charles's mother was also a Gola tribewoman named Zoe. While attending Chamberlain Junior College in Newton, Massachusetts, Taylor worked as a security guard, truck driver, and mechanic, before transferring to Bentley College in Massachusetts and receiving a BA in economics in 1977. During his undergraduate years, Taylor joined the Union of Liberian Associations and worked his way up through the organization's ranks to become its national chairman. Political life. Taylor backed Samuel Doe's coup on April 12, 1980, which resulted in the assassination of President William R. Tolbert Jr. and Doe's takeover of power. Taylor was appointed Director General of the General Services Agency, a position that put him in command of the Liberian government's buying. After a few years of serving under him, Doe accused Taylor of stealing an estimated $1 million and depositing it in a different bank account. As a result, Taylor fled to the United States the following year. However, he was apprehended on May 21, 1984, in Somerville, Massachusetts, by 2 U.S. deputy marshals on an extradition order for embezzling $1 million. With the support of a legal team led by former U.S. Attorney General Ramsey Clark, Taylor successfully fought extradition. His lawyers argued that his claimed acts of lawbreaking in Liberia were political rather than criminal in character, and that the two countries' extradition treaties had expired. While the trial was going on, Taylor and 4 other inmates escaped from the jail on September 15, 1985. They sawed through a bar covering a window in a dormitory room, then lowered themselves approximately 20 feet on knotted sheets and escaped into neighboring woods by jumping a fence. Taylor's wife and his sister-in-law met Taylor and 2 other escapees at neighboring Jordan Hospital shortly after. They took a getaway car to New York's Staten Island, where Taylor successfully got away. However, Taylor's fellow fugitives, as well as his wife and sister-in-law, were all arrested. FirstLiberian Civil War. After eluding extradition, he eventually made his way to Libya, where he received guerrilla fighter training. There, he founded the National Patriotic Front of Liberia, a militia group that invaded the country in late 1989. Then he returned to Liberia as the leader of the National Patriotic Front of Liberia that overthrew the Doe administration, sparking the FirstLiberian Civil War. In 1990, Taylor's army pushed on Monrovia's capital, but his drive for control was thwarted by competing organizations. Doe was murdered in the fighting, and the armed factions waged a vicious civil war for the next 7 years, killing over 150,000 people and forcing more than half of the population to flee. The NPFL never acquired control of the capital, but it did have control of the countryside and its abundant natural riches. This conflict also spread to Sierra Leone. The Economic Community of West African States sought to interfere with peacekeeping troops, and a signing of a peace treaty took place that brought the conflict to a conclusion. Taylor seized control of a huge chunk of the country and rose to prominence as one of Africa's most powerful warlords. Becoming the president. As agreed in the peace deal, general elections were held in the country on July 19, 1997. Taylor won the elections by a landslide, beating his opponents by getting 75% of the votes. His opponents accused him of using unfair techniques, such as handing out food to the primarily impoverished and illiterate population, and using radio communication to better his image, since he already controlled a major part of the country. The first thing Taylor did as president was to reform the army by filling it with his former militia members. As a result of these inclusions, another conflict between Taylor and the opposition started, which resulted in Monrovia becoming a hotbed of gunfire and looting. Taylor was also accused by governments all over the world of helping insurgents in Sierra Leone, and the United Nations Security Council imposed sanctions on Liberia in 2000. SecondLiberian Civil War. By that time, a rebellion against Taylor had already begun, led by a group known as Liberians United for Reconciliation and Democracy, most commonly known as LIRD. This organization was repeatedly accused of crimes and was receiving support from Guinea's government. This insurrection marked the start of Liberia's Second Civil War. Lurd took control of northern Liberia by early 2003. In the same year, the Movement for Democracy in Liberia, MODEL, a second Ivorian-backed rebel group, arose in southern Liberia and achieved quick success. Taylor's administration only controlled approximately a third of Liberia, including Monrovia and the country's core region. This area housed more than a third of the entire population. In July 2003, Lurd then began a siege on Monrovia, and numerous brutal clashes ensued as Taylor's soldiers thwarted rebel attempts to take the capital. After a civil conflict erupted in the country, Taylor was charged with serious human rights breaches and indicted by a UN-sponsored war crimes tribunal in 2003. Taylor was accused of being intimately involved in the Sierra Leone Civil War during his administration. He was suspected of selling weapons to the Revolutionary United Front in exchange for blood diamonds, which aided the rebels. Due to a UN embargo on arms sales to Liberia at the time, gun traffickers like Victor Bout bought them on the illicit market and then sold them to both parties, resulting in increased violence. Peace talks. Taylor was also charged with assisting and abetting rough atrocities against civilians, which resulted in the deaths or mutilation of thousands of people, as well as the abduction and torture of an undetermined number of persons. He was also accused of helping Rough in child soldier recruiting. In addition to assisting Rough in these acts, Taylor is said to have personally directed Rough operations in Sierra Leone, while also stealing and diverting approximately $100 million in the last 4 years of his administration, which was roughly half of all government revenue. Due to increased international pressure, Taylor officially went to Ghana, where he was participating in peace discussions with Model and Lurd officials to end the conflict. The Ghanaian authorities decided to cut short the peace talks and decided to apprehend Taylor, but were not able to do so, as Taylor's chief bodyguard and military commander Benjamin Yetton threatened to execute Ghanaians living in Liberia, which effectively deterred Ghana's government from acting. Upon returning, opposition to his leadership intensified domestically. Taylor had lost control of much of the countryside by 2003, when the Special Court for Sierra Leone publicly prosecuted him. As a result of mounting international criticism, he resigned. Life of an exile. Looking at the worst state of affairs, President Olusegun Obasanjo of Nigeria offered Taylor exile in his nation on the condition that he remain out of Liberian politics. Taylor agreed to go into exile in Nigeria after his resignation. While the peace accord secured Taylor's safety in exile in Nigeria, it also required him to stay out of Liberian politics. However, he disobeyed that one and only rule. By then, Interpol issued a red notice for Taylor on December 4th, implying that countries had a duty to arrest him. Taylor was added to Interpol's most wanted list, where he was declared wanted for crimes against humanity and violations of the 1949 Geneva Convention, as well as being deemed dangerous. Nigeria declared that it would not comply with Interpol's demands, only consenting to repatriate Taylor to Liberia if the Liberian president requested it. It was then that Liberia's newly elected president, Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, issued an official request to Nigeria for Taylor's extradition on March 17, 2006. On March 25th, Nigeria agreed to release Taylor so that he may face charges in the Special Court for Sierra Leone. Nigeria agreed merely to free Taylor and not to extradite him because the two nations did not have an extradition treaty. Upon hearing the news, Taylor attempted to flee Nigeria, but was apprehended immediately. He was then charged with crimes against humanity and war crimes during Sierra Leone's civil conflict and transported to The Hague to stand trial before the Special Court for Sierra Leone. Despite Taylor's unwillingness to attend in court for the first session, the trial commenced in June 2007. The verdict. The hearings in The Hague moved at a leisurely pace. Before the prosecution rested its case in February 2009, the court heard the testimony of 91 witnesses invited to testify against Taylor. Taylor did not take the stand in his own defense until July 2009. In his testimony, he rejected all claims against him, including conscripting children as soldiers, ordering amputations and other mutilations of people, and unlawfully dealing in diamonds to fund the 1990s conflict, diamonds notoriously known as blood diamonds. The days of blood diamonds are even depicted in a film of the same name starring Leonardo DiCaprio. The case against Taylor was widely publicized, in part because British model Naomi Campbell was called to testify in August of 2010 regarding a number of stones that Taylor reportedly gave her in South Africa in 1997. The judges deferred his trial in March 2011 to consider a verdict, which was not expected for some months. After a long wait, the verdict was released on April 26, 2012, and Taylor was found guilty on all 11 counts of bearing responsibility for war crimes and crimes against humanity committed by rebel troops during Sierra Leone Civil War. However, he was not found guilty of ordering or instigating the crimes. Taylor was sentenced to 50 years in jail on May 30, 2012, virtually a life sentence for the then 64-year-old. Taylor attempted an appeal, but it was denied on September 26, 2013, and his conviction and sentence were affirmed. He is currently imprisoned at HM Prison Franklin in Durham, England. Well, that's it for today's video. We hope you enjoyed the content of the video, and if you did, show some love and hit that like button, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel so that you never miss out on any of the amazing videos we have in store for you.